Imagine you're out for a weekend hike. You're enjoying the scenery, watching the birds, and you step over a fallen log. What you don't realize is that a highly evolved predator is coiled in the grass, just inches away from your boot. A snake strike happens in a fraction of a second. Some species can launch themselves nearly half their body length before you even process the movement, leaving you reeling in sudden pain and complete shock. Fortunately, if you are hiking in the United States, the statistical odds are in your favor. Out of all the native snake species, only about 20% are actually venomous. The true threat in those first few chaotic moments is the victim's total lack of knowledge about what is actually happening inside their own body the second those fangs pierce the skin. Medical professionals call this initial moment the biological coin toss. Up to 50% of all snake bites are what doctors classify as a dry bite, meaning the fangs puncture the skin, but absolutely no venom is released. Snakes actively meter or control their venom output. Producing these complex proteins requires a massive amount of energy, so they often deliver a dry bite purely as a warning, preferring to save their biological resources for hunting actual prey. But if the snake decides you are a serious threat, it delivers a wet bite. This diagram shows the fangs penetrating human skin and releasing a toxic cocktail deep into the muscle. The heavy concentration of enzymes and proteins immediately begins breaking down localized cells, digesting human tissue right at the site of the wound. Once that venom enters your system, a very real countdown begins. The actions you take in the next few minutes will dictate whether you keep your limb or your life. For decades, pop culture has taught us a specific set of survival tactics for this exact scenario. A panicked victim might try to suck the venom out with their mouth, cut open the wound with a pocket knife, or tie off the limb with a tight tourniquet. Let's look at why a tourniquet is incredibly dangerous. This animation shows how tying off blood flow traps all the venom in one single extremity. Instead of being diluted by the body, the tissue damage becomes severely concentrated, drastically increasing the likelihood of amputating the limb. Cutting the wound or using a suction device is disastrous. The fangs inject venom far too deep into the muscle for surface suction to work, and slicing into the bite with a dirty blade practically guarantees you will introduce a severe secondary infection. These methods do not extract the poison. They actively assist the toxins in destroying your tissue. The medically backed response for humans and pets focuses entirely on biological pacing. Effective first aid aims to buy enough time for professional help to arrive. This diagram contrasts a rapidly beating heart with a resting one to show why staying calm is critical. To slow the circulation of the venom, you need to keep the bite below the level of your heart. Avoid walking if at all possible, have someone carry you or your pet, and keep your heart rate low to minimize the spread of the toxins. There is nothing in a standard wilderness first aid kit that can cure a venomous snakebite. The only viable medical intervention is dialing 911 and initiating an immediate evacuation. True survival in the wild means pausing your body's biological clock just long enough to reach the actual medical cure. Once the victim arrives at the emergency room, their survival relies on an immunological process that has remained consistent since the 1890s. The creation of antivenom starts with highly trained professionals who manually milk live venomous snakes to safely extract drops of their raw toxins. Diluted venom is injected into a host animal, like a horse, triggering a massive immune response. Over several weeks, it produces antibodies, which are harvested from its blood, purified, and bottled for human use. The same toxins evolution developed for predation are transformed by another mammal's immune system into a serum that neutralizes the threat to human tissue. This animated diagram visualizes how that antivenom functions inside the human body. When doctors inject the serum, the antibodies immediately hunt down and bind to the venom proteins in the bloodstream, neutralizing them and halting systemic failure. Of course, the absolute best cure is avoiding the fangs entirely. Stay on clear paths, step directly onto fallen logs, and maintain a 6-foot distance. While a wet bite is a severe medical emergency, prompt professional treatment means it is very rarely a fatal event. Surviving a snake encounter relies on the calm discipline to maintain distance and the century-old immunological science waiting at the hospital.